So I'm here to talk about the vCenter Server Appliance as the default deployment. For the last couple of years, VMware has been kind of leading down this path saying, hey, go look at the appliance, go deploy the appliance, right? So the writing has been on the wall that the appliance itself is becoming the new de facto deployment. This is just a quick agenda. I'm going to be talking about the appliance benefits, then the features. We'll go into some futures tech preview, and then additional resources to help you guys out. So just a little bit about me. My name is Emad Younis. I'm a senior technical marketing engineer at VMware. I cover the vCenter Server Appliance. I cover migration, so going from Windows to the appliance, as well as VMware Cloud on AWS. You can reach out to me on my blog at emadyunis.com, and then on Twitter at Emad Younis. So the first thing you may have seen or may have not seen is we made an announcement right before VMworld US, and that is the deprecation of Windows vCenter Server. Now, don't panic. It's not like we're going to yank Windows today, right? This just means that in the next major release, right, will be the last release you will see a Windows vCenter Server available to you. So now is your chance to start looking at your options to get to the appliance, and we're going to help guide you there. So let's take a look at how the appliance came to life. First, vSphere 5.0 is the first time we saw the vCenter Server Appliance, and it was this thing that you can use in your labs. It really didn't have a lot of functionality, but it was easy to deploy and get vCenter up and running. So we also introduced the Postgres DB within 5.1, 5.5, so we're also removing the ability to have or need a separate external database. Fast forward to vSphere 6.0, the appliance now becomes scale parity with its Windows counterpart, right? No longer needing a separate database or anything like that. Now it's equal as far as the number of VMs, the number of hosts that are supported. We also introduced the platform services controller. So we've evolved from the normal SSO that we saw in 5.1 that we all love and 5.0, and now to the platform services controller, which not only has SSO, but also things like licensing, certificates within the vSphere SSO domain. We also have enhanced link mode by default by having an external deployment. But when we go to 6.5, wow, the appliance now starts to come out of its shell and become its own. It now becomes the face of vCenter Server, right? We introduce new functionality. So we have native vCenter Server high availability. We have built-in file-based backup restore. We also have a migration tool to get you from Windows to the appliance. Not only that, but VUM, which used to require a separate Windows machine, now is part of the appliance and can also be migrated in if you're on Windows. Photon OS becomes the default operating system for the vCenter Server Appliance. And in a couple of slides, I'm going to show you why that's going to be beneficial to you. Oh, we're back on. Awesome. Okay. And then we've introduced the vSphere H5 Client. And if you guys are aware, VMware's direction not only is the appliance, but we are now going towards having a fully functional H5 client for vCenter. But there's more, right? See, I see a guy already out with a camera waiting to see what I'm going to click next. Yeah. Haha. Okay, yeah. So in the next release, we're going to continue to add not only more features and functionality to show you that, hey, we're dedicated not only to the vCenter Server Appliance being the default deployment, but as well as the H5 client. By the way, if you're not aware and you want to see some of these new features and enhancements, go and register for the beta right now. So let's talk about some of the operational benefits to the vCenter Server Appliance. First of all, from a provisioning perspective, it's a lot quicker than its Windows counterpart, right? All I'm doing is going through, deploying an OVA, going through the wizard, and boom, I'm up and running, right? I have vCenter Server up within about 30 minutes, whereas with Windows, I now have to deploy an operating system, I have to deploy a database, I have to patch. I mean, it's a long process. It takes a few days before Windows vCenter Servers is up and ready for you to start using, where the appliance, like I said, 30 minutes, you're good to go. From a licensing perspective, well, we save you on operating system and database, right? So if you're a big shop that has a lot of vCenter servers, that's money back in your pocket. Or even if you're a small shop, that's still money back in your pocket. So you guys get a bonus. Minimal database maintenance. And what that really means is, out of the box, the vCenter Server Appliance is already tuned for the vCenter Server application. So there's no need for you to do any tweaking or changes to the Postgres database. But on the Windows side, you do need that DBA. You need somebody to tweak it or back it up or know how to maintain that database. That piece goes away, right? You give the DBA back his time, and you get time back as well. Unified patching. And what that really means is, with Windows, you have separate areas where you have to patch today. You have the operating system, you have the database, and you have the vCenter Server application. Whereas with the appliance, you just go into the VMI, you click update, and it does everything for you. The OS, the database, and the application, all in one shot. And then finally, single point of support. And what that really means is now VMware owns the stack. In 6.0, the appliance was running SUSE Linux. Now it's running Photon OS. So if you have any issues, you just contact VMware support, because now we own the operating system, we own the database, Postgres, and we have the application. So no longer needing to call Microsoft or Oracle in case of any issues, just VMware. Along those lines, I've been talking about Photon OS. And Photon OS is a purposely built Linux OS just for virtualization. VMware built this specifically for virtualization, and the vCenter Server Appliance is the first one to be running this OS. We hope that other appliances will follow suit afterwards, so stay tuned for that. But it also eliminates us relying on any third parties for patching or anything like that. So like I stated earlier, with SUSE, we had to wait if there was anything coming down as far as patching or critical updates. Now, we no longer have to do that. We will supply those patches and updates. We've also released a blog post recently talking about the monthly patching cadence along those lines. So if there is a critical vulnerability found, within 30 days, VMware will publish a patch or fix out there on the My VMware patch portal, and you can also check out VMware's security page as well. This also was released out on the vSphere blog last month, so go check out the blog post there. When we talk about features, like I said, 6.5, the vCenter Server Appliance just kind of exploded with a bunch of new features. Native high availability, the VCSA VMI is now full of features that show you what's going on with the appliance. We'll talk about those in a little bit. The REST APIs, so now you can programmatically go in and get more information from the appliance. Two-stage deployment. With 6.0, we only had one stage, so if you deployed the appliance and it crashed, you had to start back over. Now we kind of help with stage 1, just deploying the appliance, stage 2, configuring the appliance. We have the migration tool, update manager is now part of the appliance, and we have file-based backup restore. And these are just a subset of the new features. There's a lot of improvements that happened in 6.5 when it comes to security and other related areas. So let's jump right into what's new with 6.5 and the features for the VCSA. So first is migration. I'm not going to go too deep into migration because you guys covered that at the last VMUG, as well as one of the R&D engineers, Ivo here, is going to be covering not only migration but updating of the appliance. But in short, we allow you now to migrate a Windows vCenter server running version 5.5 or 6.0 and get to the appliance. We do all the heavy lifting for you, so you don't have to run any scripts or anything like that. And we preserve the identity of vCenter Server. So whatever you have today will come across. So if it's named Windows vCenter 01, it's going to come across as Windows vCenter 01. But the huge piece here is the UUID, because that's how all your applications talk to vCenter as an endpoint. So if you have VROPS, if you have VRA, whatever in your environment, after the migration, it won't know any different. It's the same old vCenter server. When it comes to deployment, we now introduce two-stage deployment. The first stage will deploy the OVA, just a blank OVA, and then the second stage is now going to configure that OVA. Just a little tidbit, and this is something you won't find really in the documentation, is between stages, you may want to take a snapshot. And the reason being is, even though if there is an issue, we will let you go back, sometimes there could be a situation where you can't go back, and having that snapshot will now allow you to go back and not have to redeploy. So just a little tidbit there. The other thing is the installer is now browser agnostic. So if you remember in 6.0, we had to actually install Client Integration Plugin or SIP and had to use a browser. Now it's browser agnostic. When you mount the ISO and you click the installer will bring up the image on the right-hand side, so you'll see install, upgrade, migrate, and restore. And now you can start doing your tasks. This also now works on not only Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. So now you can run it natively from your Mac if you have one, or your Linux machine, no longer depending on a Windows machine for the deployment. And as I stated earlier, we no longer have a dependency on SIP. So yay, we don't have to worry about a browser. Along the same lines, we can also deploy and migrate and upgrade, so basically the life cycle of the VCSA through the CLI. You don't have to do it through a GUI. As a matter of fact, this is how I deploy my vCenter server appliances. To be honest, it's a lot quicker. All I do is take the JSON files, I manipulate them with my information, and then I start the deployment. I go off, do whatever other tasks I have to do, and when I come back, I have an appliance up and running. And the good thing is, this kind of almost templatizes your appliance deployment, so you can ensure that from here on out, as you deploy, all you need to do is make some small modifications of FQDN, IP address, and now you have the appliances should all be deployed consistently from here on out. Not only the deployment, but like I said, the upgrade and migration. So the full life cycle of the appliance can be done via the JSONs. Who here deploys the appliance via the JSON files? Who here is aware that we have JSON files? Okay, I just want to make sure you guys are awake. By the way, this can also be done again on Windows, Mac, and Linux. We've heard a lot from customers saying, well, the appliance is this black box. We have no visibility into what's going on. Well, the engineering and the PM team has listened, and in 6.5, we now introduce some new functionality within VMI. So if you're not familiar with VMI, that's the vSphere management for the appliance, and that's on port 5480. And now what we're introducing is visibility into your CPU, memory, and network utilization for the appliance. So all you have to do is go into the VMI, you'll log in as root, and once you're there, on the left-hand pane, you'll see the CPU and memory. You'll click in there, and it'll show you the utilization for the appliance. And under networking, you'll also see your network utilization. But not only that, we also will show you some visibility into the Postgres database, right? We've heard a lot of customers say, I want to see what's going on with the database. So now we're showing you some information and more to come. We're also, we've moved the syslog from out of the web client and inside the VMI. So the VMI becomes this centerpiece for your visibility into the appliance, and going forward will also become your way of troubleshooting the appliance as well. We also introduced the API Explorer. So now you can actually go in just using the FQDN or IP address of the VCA/API Explorer, and you'll see all the new REST APIs. And with every release, we'll start to add more and more, right? So there's a little drop down at the top. I know it's pretty hard to see, but you'll see some little areas where it's like vCenter, Appliance, Sys, all that stuff. So you can go in, and now you'll see the APIs to be able to manage the appliance programmatically and pull some information. So one of the slides I have later on is with 6.5, we introduced native file-based backup restore. But one of the things you'll notice is we don't have a scheduler, right? But with these APIs, you can now create your own scheduler until we introduce a scheduler. So that's just one example. We also have DCLI, Data Center CLI. And I really like this because if you are not familiar with the APIs, if you're not familiar or comfortable with the CLI at all, or just beginning, you can use this. This is kind of a introductory to CLI because you can just tab your way. You can start typing anything, like here in this example, I start with the letter M. I wanted to see what's out there for monitoring. And then all of a sudden, another list comes up. And once I select that, another list comes up. So I can, in theory, create my script here, test it, and then take it, and now I can schedule it to run anywhere, all right? So if you want to get started, DCLI is a good way to get started, and later on you can take that and use it in Power CLI. So we talked about file-based backup restore. And what this allows us to do is today you can continue using your VADP image-only backups, right? That's what we support for the appliance. Totally good to use that. But consider this an insurance policy. And here's why. With image-level backups, it just takes that backup. It has no clue what the state of the appliance is. Is it good? Is it bad? All you know is you have a checkbox. You have a backup, right? And the only time you know if that backup is good or bad is when you do that restore. And if the restore is bad, well, you can just take your resume, put it out on the internet, and find you a new job, right? What this does is it gives you that insurance policy because we won't back up unless the VCSA is in a good state. So I'll give you an example. Let's say, for example, one of the services is down, and you try to click backup. It's going to come up and say, go fix that service, and then come back and back me up. So what winds up happening is you ensure yourself that you have a nice backup state of the appliance, so when you restore, you know that you have a good restore, right? That's what the file-based backup restore does. It's an insurance policy for you to ensure that when you do need that restore, you're good to go. Now, we support a handful of protocols today: HTTPS, HTTP, FTP, FTPS, SCP, with more on the way, but that's what we support today. We do give the option for ES-256 encryption. It's just a simple checkbox, and then you add a password. Now, keep in mind, you're going to need to store that password somewhere safe, because if you do use the encryption option and then you need to do the restore, what's going to ask you for that password? And then if you don't have the password, guess what? Yeah, you remember that resume? Yeah. Okay, so that's really what we have for the backup piece. Now, the restore piece is also simple, because all you have to do is mount the ISO that you use to deploy the appliance, point back to the protocol, and now we're going to deploy a brand new appliance for you. We're going to keep the identity of the appliance, so that way any solution talking to vCenter won't know any different, and then we'll layer on top the backup piece. So now you're back up and running. It's that simple, right? No agents, nothing required, just the ISO. By the way, there's no QSing required, so you can back this thing up while it's running. I'm just curious, is anybody here running 6.5 in their environment today? Okay. Anybody using file-based backup restore? Couple people? Okay. Now we have native vCenter Server high availability, and this has been an ask for many, many years. I know when I was a customer, this is one thing that I was looking forward to. So we have an active-passive solution where basically all we're doing is cloning the active vCenter Server twice. The first one becomes the passive node. The second one becomes the witness. Now the witness is a smaller footprint. Same number of disks, but after we do deploy it, we shrink it down to 1 vCPU and 1 gig of memory. A couple of things to note here is this is the only time the appliance will support 2 network adapters today, right? So ETH0 is your management. ETH1 is always the HA or private network for the appliance. So if you've deployed a secondary NIC for the appliance and then you try to use HA, you'll know why immediately, because it needs ETH1 for that heartbeat network. The other thing to keep in mind is we're doing synchronous database replication between the active node and the passive node, and then asynchronous replication for any files, so logs and things like that. Actually, real quick, one thing I want to note here that's not on the slide is there is a requirement of 10 milliseconds round trip between all the nodes. Because again, this is vCenter Server high availability, not vCenter Server DR, right? So don't try to put the one node in data center 1, another node in data center 2. Oh, data center 1 goes completely down. Okay, great. vCenter's up and running in data center 2, but guess what? Your hosts are still in data center 1. So you want to make sure that this is there protecting HA and not for DR. This also works with vSphere HA as well. They go hand in hand because what this is doing is it's solving for vCenter application high availability, where vSphere HA is solving for hardware failure. Update Manager. Update Manager is now part of the vCenter Server Appliance. So now you shrink your footprint down from a Windows standpoint, no longer needing that external server. The other cool thing is here you don't have to worry about tuning it. It does support being highly available with VCHA. It can be backed up as part of the appliance, and we now have it by default. This also supports not only upgrades, but migrations. So if you're already on the appliance, how many folks here are already on the appliance today? Wow, the rest of you are breaking my heart on Windows. If you're already on the appliance today, it's a simple upgrade. You'll just use the migration assistant on Update Manager, and as part of the upgrade process, it's going to pull in your baselines. If you're on Windows, when you're going through the migration process, it will also bring that Update Manager in. If you have no desire to bring over your baselines whatsoever, just unregister Update Manager from vCenter, and then you'll bring in a fresh Update Manager, and you can start creating your baselines if you choose to. The vSphere Flash web client that everybody loves. Please don't kill me. So in this release, it is 100% better than it was in 6.0. It actually becomes the source of truth. Because if you notice in 6.0, you'd go in, do an action, and the little cog would spin, and you'd go out and get a coffee. You'd come back, it's spinning. Okay, another coffee break, come back, it's still spinning. You get angry, you close it, you open it back up, it's still spinning. Yeah. Yeah. But now it becomes actually the source of truth because we introduce live refresh for it. Not only that, but we've changed the Manage tab to configure. We've basically tried to change the layout so it looks kind of like the C# and easy for you to find things, because that was the other thing, is we made so many changes in the web client that it was hard to find anything. I think I spent more time searching for what I'm looking for than actually doing work. So now we're making changes to make it easy for you to find what you're looking for, and it becomes the source of truth with live refresh. But I have some bad news. We're going to deprecate the Flash-based client. You guys are sad, right? I can see it on your faces. So just as we announced, Windows vCenter server deprecation right before VMworld US. We also announced deprecation of the Flash-based web client as well. So next major release will be the last release, because our goal is to get to a 100% HTML5 based usable client. There we go. All right. So now in 6.5, we introduce HTML5 based client. All it is the FQDN or IP address of your vCenter server /UI. After you do the deployment, you'll actually be introduced to two options, either to use the HTML5 based client or the Flash based client, right? This client today has a subset of features, and we are increasing functionality through some updates. So for example, in 6.5 GA, it was there with a subset. 6.5 patch B, we added more. 6.5 update 1, we've added even more. So as we have more functionality, we'll continue to add them until we're 100% feature parity. If you want to kind of get ahead of this a little bit, we actually have a fling for the HTML5 client. So if you want to see what's coming out ahead, you can download the fling and use it in your environment. The other good thing about not only the fling, but the HTML5 client is you'll notice there's a little smiley face in the upper right-hand corner. That's your way to talk back to VMware, right? Not only engineering, but also the PMs. Give them feedback. If you like a functionality, let them know, hey, this was really awesome. Great job. If you don't like something, let them know, hey, this was really bad. Don't do this again. And here's how you can improve, right? So we're looking for that feedback. Remember, this is what you're going to be using to manage your environment, so you have a voice in what goes in it. So just some additional resources for you guys. First, myself and my colleagues in technical marketing, we produce a lot of collateral in blogs, videos, product walkthroughs, things like that. And they're all over the place, right? So what we've done is we've created vSphere Central at vmware.com, and that's where you can find all that information. Just one central area where you can find not only vCenter information, host information, lifecycle information, it's all there. And we break it up. So for example, vCenter, you'll go in, you'll have day 0 and day 2 information there. Also, we've introduced the Topology Upgrade Planning Tool. Now, this is a great online tool. Initially, this was released kind of like a poster in a sense. Now it's online. You go in, you give it some information about your current environment, and at the end, it will give you what your potential upgrade or topology path should look like. If you go to Ivo's session later on today, he's going to go into more detail about this. And then finally, some of the Lightboard videos. I always get asked if I had to learn how to write backwards or left-handed, and yeah, it took a lot of practice and a lot of coffee. So anyway, myself, Adam Eckerly, Mike Foley, Kyle Ruddy, all created videos on specific areas. So check those out. They're out on YouTube. Me and Adam actually have another subset of videos where we go through the vCenter deployment, architecture, and high availability. We walk you through step by step, and we whiteboard all those out.